you know what we're here for?
Equal parts. Oh my gosh.
Illegal.
Help! Help! I'm being refreshed! Come on!
Don't be creepy.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
What? I'm staying in the race.
What'd you drum up?
What now?
Thanks, Jeff, for the question.
Oh, girl, baby girl.
Wasn't it just like my wife's vagina?
Not gonna do it. Wouldn't be prudent at this juncture.
Science.
That's hot.
So hot right now.
Donald Trump spent a lot of quality time with my wife.
Illegal.
Cyclone Cheeto.
Arguably the greatest work of nonfiction of the 20th century. This is from 12 Rules for Life. I don't want reality.
You should be ashamed of yourself for having that thought.
Give me a joke. Climate and everything are the same word.
This is your language. Please.
I mean, this woman is dangerous, ladies and gentlemen.
You supercalifragilisticexpialidocious bitch.
Cheeto.
Oh, never occurred to me.
Interesting.
It's just crazy enough to work.
Yeah.
Hey, she measured it.
floating somewhere between Earth and space, wondering what it all means. So much for us to do tonight, so much for us to see, talk about, and perhaps enjoy. It is Sunday Funday after all, everyone. But regardless, don't forget to put on those seatbelts, as space safety always comes first on these little trips of ours. Well, let's see who has won today. Atticus Among Us, Aaron W., and Hermit Horologist on the podium. 1, 2, 3. Jerry McLean a very close fourth. BB, Tracy Eva, Del Sol Verde, Charlie Janmir. Oh, by the way, thank you for the gifted membership, Charlie. Really appreciate that. I see series. Atticus Among Us. Did I say Atticus? Was Atticus already? I think I already. No. You're in there. Who else? Mozart. And Bob Carmody. Even Soul Life here. And Moa Noab. Have I missed anyone? So hard with all of you in chat so early. But I suppose we better get right to it. But you know what? You know what day it is. It's Sunday Funday. It's on the title. It's the day of the week that it is, if you checked the calendar recently. Which means today we will attempt to have fun. It's a guaranteed percentage of fun in this here today. So let's start here with a little bit of comedic enjoyment.
It just turned 2025 like a month ago, I think, right? We're in 2025. Just making sure. You never know.
It's true. It's true.
Could be AI.
Arguably the greatest work of nonfiction of the 20th century.
2025, and as soon as 2025 started, all my friends were sending me memes and videos about how 2025 is a special number. Did any of you see these things? And it was like, I kept getting the same one over and over. My friend called me up. She's like, Sammy, you would love this. 2025 is a crazy number. I'm like, why? She's like, because it's just crazy. I'm like, that's good. You don't have to say more.
Nice.
I'm like, why is it a crazy number? She's like, because it has all these crazy mathematical properties. I'm like, it's called a number. Numbers have properties. She's like, yeah, but did you know that 2025 is a square? I'm like, yes, some numbers are squared. Yeah.
It's true.
Something that happens from time to time. She's like, yeah, but it's a perfect square. I'm like, that means it's a square.
It's science.
Basically the same thing. I would know because I'm a square and I'm perfect. So, thank you. You're too kind. You know, and I was like, I mean, these are all cool, but like numbers have properties. I mean, did you know that?
No, the clip is quiet.
Divisible by 2? And she's like, really? I'm like, see, you're just easily informed. That's the problem. She's like, but don't you think it's cool? It's 45 squared. Like 45 squared. What does that even mean? I'm like, it means like it's 45 times 45. That's what it means. She's like, but there's got to be like some significance. I'm like, I'm not a astrologer, man. I'm a guy who likes math. She's like, but 45 squared, you got to mean something. I'm like, I don't know.
Something.
Maybe it's like having the 45th of something and then having it again for some reason.
It's science.
Can't think of anything that would possibly relate to. Yeah, math brings the truth sometimes. I'm sure there's some smartass there like, actually, he's 47th now. Fine, then I'll come back and see you in 45 times 47, which is 2115. You're at 2115, this joke will make sense. But to be honest, I really have been enjoying Maga so far. Men arguing over government authority, that's what it stands for. Yeah, it's a lot of arguing. Elon is in the lead right now, President Elon, or if you want to call him Chancellor, I guess you could call him Chancellor. The dude did a Nazi salute, like straight up. That was a Nazi salute, and this has been verified by Nazis. And I'm going to listen to the Nazis on this one. That's not something I say very often. But on this one, I'm going to listen to the Nazis. Now, why he did it, I don't know if he was dog whistling. I don't know if he made a bet with somebody. I don't know what it was, but there's all this weird speculation. Like some people say he full on did a Nazi salute because he's a Nazi. Some people say he's just on the spectrum, you know, which is fair. I think he's both. I mean, I think he's on the Nazi spectrum. I think that's what it is. There is such thing as a Nazi spectrum. And the truth is, we're all on it. It doesn't matter.
Wow.
There's two extremes. You're either zero Nazi, okay? Or I don't know which way you guys see this. You're zero Nazi, and then that goes all the way to proud Nazi, okay? And then all the way
right,
to
it's like a 0 to 100
you know what I mean?
type of thing.
But there's a big distance from point A to point B, and also from point B to point C. You know what I mean? And Elon, he's not A. We for sure know he's not zero Nazi. He's not A. He may or may not be B. I don't know, okay? But I don't think he's quite C, okay? So you could say he's a not C. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. But it's been interesting watching, you know, Elon's transition into power, you know, with Doge. Department of Gestures excused. Because, you know, everyone gave him a pass on that, like the ADL, the anti-defamation.
He's really going in on the acronyms today. That's the second acronym joke he's made. Ooh, 00 Govan with a galactic membership gift. Much appreciated.
League. They should just change their name to
We need
Defamation
those.
League because they just talk about people, but
those.
gave Elon the pass because he's not a peaceful college protester. So, but yeah, it has been interesting to watch because Elon, you know, he for sure is pulling the strings behind everything because Trump has changed his position on a bunch of things already, and you can see the Elon influence. You know, like for instance, when it came to the H-1B visas situation, I don't know how you spent your Christmas, but I spent it watching men arguing over government authority. Because Trump has a lot of sound bites that are not too old that show him specifically saying he did not like H-1B visas. Like they're like, the H-1Bs are corrupt, we're gonna get rid of the system. And then all Elon does is like, you know, whisper in his ear a little bit, like tweet, 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 or XXXXXX or whatever.
Truth, trothy.
And then Trump changed his whole position. Like he was like, I don't like the H1s. And it was like suddenly he was like, oh, I love the H1s. I have a lot of H1s on my property. I got the H1N1s. I got the bird flu. I got the HVAC. I got the Preparation H. The HIV. The Triple H. All the H's. Where are all these H's coming from? They're leaving their words. They're crossing over the border. They're leaving their
Invasion
words.
of H's.
It's a huge problem.
No more H's in the English language from now on.
You notice Trump never pronounces H because he's always miming it with his hands. He's like, it's huge, it's huge.
Hello, everybody.
But yeah, Trump totally flipped on that, you know, after Elon, you know, said his thing. And then Vivek Ramaswamy also, too. Vivek got kicked out of Doge. That was kind of dope. Because Vivek got kicked out of Doge because he made too long of a tweet, basically, is what happened. I don't know if you guys know Vivek Ramaswamy, but he's, South Asian representation in politics. Listen, to be fair, Vivek does say a bunch of things that I do like, and he also says some things that are just great for comedy, so it works for me. I just wish that he wore sandals because he flip-flops so much. That wasn't racial, so relax. It could have been. But so Vivek also has recent sound bites where he was like, I don't like H-1Bs, we're going to get rid of it. And then, you know, Elon whispers in his ear, XXXXX. And then Vivek puts out like a 3-page long Twitter post on basically saying that Americans are lazy and we celebrate mediocrity, which I would have been offended as an American, but I only read half of it. Damn, this post was too long, but it was a very out-of-touch post. If you saw it, it was really hilarious, because he opens it by saying, all right, it all comes down to the C word. Culture. Like, leave the jokes to the C words, Vivek, okay? And then he says, in our society, we celebrate the jock and not the math Olympiad, you know, which I took a little personally. You know, like, come on, man. People are
if anybody's going to take that personally.
And then he's like, it's because our kids are spending too much time just chilling at the mall. I'm like, who's chilling at the mall? in 2025. This isn't the 90s anymore, bro. And then he starts making references. He's like, because we celebrate Zach and Slater from Saved by the Bell. I'm like, who's reading this? I swear to God, the best part when he's like, it's because we put too much focus on Corey from Boy Meets World. I'm like, you talking to millennials and Gen X exclusively at this point? Like, I don't think most people get that reference. Like, Gen Z for sure did not watch Boy Meets World. Gen Z has not even met World. You know what I mean? Like, and they prefer not to identify as boy. Like, Gen Z, like if Gen Z had a show, it would be They Have Not Met World. You know? But it was just this very long-winded, weird post. But the thing is, when I read the first half, I was like, I don't disagree with this because, yes, there are a lot of hardworking American people, right? Yeah. Okay. See, 3 of them, right? We have 3 of them here, right? So you know who you are if you're a hardworking American, all right? But when you compare ourselves to other really hardworking nations, we don't actually cut it. You know what I mean? Like, if you think you're hardworking as an American, make a friend in China, okay? Like, you're not hardworking, all right? Get on Red Note tonight, okay? Get on Xiaohongshu and make a friend. You guys know Red Note? You guys not on Red Note? Okay. Okay, good. See? You're making hardworking friends. Good. And make a friend in China, and you'll see that they work very hard. Like, if you want to talk about the C word, okay? I think it's because Americans, we too often compare ourselves to Canadians and Europeans. You know what I mean? And Europeans don't really work that hard. They're completely closed on Sundays. Like, go try to order food in Europe on a Sunday. They'd be like, we're closed. You know, and you'd be like, are you religious? No, we're closed. And Canadians, bless you, but you work like quarter-day shifts and get free healthcare. You know what I mean? Like, if you have a Canadian friend, text them right now. Be like, are you working? They'll be like, sorry, no. You know what I mean? Like, Canadians don't work as much. Let's face it. Like, even the best job in Canada, even like the highest, even like if you're like the dictator of Canada, even that person's like, I don't want to do this anymore. You know what I mean?
I mean, I wouldn't call Justin Trudeau the dictator, but he did just kind of quit. I don't know, it might be true. Honestly, I saw none of this until just now with all of you. I just figured we'd watch something, that wasn't difficult, maybe had potential for comedy. I think there was some in there. I found some of those things funny. All right. Now, I'm afraid we're about to immediately go to less funny things. See what I've done here? I've tried to lift your spirits before crushing them. All right, I'm not going to crush them, but it's been a weird couple of weeks.
Sam Cedar on the majority report. Emma Vigeland out today. Pleasure to welcome back to the program Ellie Mistal, justice correspondent at The Nation, who is, I think, probably just as frayed. And I got to imagine if you're looking at the legal aspects of this stuff, it's overwhelming. And it does seem to be the point, doesn't it, Ellie?
Yeah, I mean, Sam, by the way, hi, thanks for having me. It's like you spend your whole life training and building up an expertise, right? You learn things, you go to the schools, and you look at this document that we call the Constitution.
It's science.
And it doesn't matter. There's not. It's almost like I have an existential crisis where there is nothing that I know that matters anymore, because what I know is based on a world that has rules on people that are acting with generally good faith to enforce those rules. And when none of that exists, man, I'm like a Newtonian physicist that's been dropped into the quantum realm, right? Like nothing that I know actually matters anymore. So that's part of the overwhelming part of it. I mean, and like you're saying, like, it's by design. This is how this orange jerk wants me to feel. Like, he wants me to feel defeated, and I'm trying not to give him that last measure of victory. But it's difficult because I can tell you, and I'm sure I'm about to, all the ways in which everything he's done is flatly illegal. But I cannot tell you if any of that is going to matter. And
Right.
that's wild.
Wasn't there a and maybe this is I can't remember, maybe the whole thing was apocryphal, but at one point like there was a famous exchange with, maybe it was Supreme Court Justice or somebody, and there was something to like, you and what army, or something to that effect, in terms of like upholding.
Seriously, and I love this comment. Yeah, we've been dropped into the Spideyverse. Yep. Except this Spider-Verse is much worse.
A Supreme Court edict. I don't know what I'm thinking of.
I think you're thinking of Teddy Roosevelt disagreeing with the Supreme Court decision, and kind of Andrew Jackson disagreeing with the Supreme Court decision, basically preventing him from killing lots of Native Americans. And Jackson said the justice has made his ruling, now let him enforce it.
Right.
And it was a straight up like, I'm the president, I'm the commander in chief, I have the army, I'm going to kill these Indians. If if a couple of judges in Washington want to come stop me, they're welcome to take up a gun and try.
Yeah,
and that was one of the few times in American history where a president just directly defied a Supreme Court order, and it didn't matter. He just killed the Native Americans.
All right, let's go through this stuff, because I think on some level, like the dynamic seems to be the same. The only difference is that we have a handpicked Supreme Court, 6-3 Supreme Court, that I think Donald Trump feels like this is going to vindicate his claims.
I did everything
Let's
right,
start
and they
with
indicted
the
me.
Attacks on DEIA, actually, and then work our way through the firing of the NLRB commissioner and the EEOC commissioners, disabling both those commissions or bureaus, and this whole notion of the Impoundment Control Act. Yeah. But let's start with the DEIA. I mean, first off, like, I've been reading into what the DEIA EOs were from Biden, and this is not about quotas. No. It is, and it's not all about like race or culture too. It's also about economics.
I don't want reality.
It's about economics. It's about gender. It's about enforcing the American Disabilities Act. But Sam, I have a kind of a subtle or nuanced point about this, right? Ending DEIA programs is not unconstitutional. DEIA is a policy, right? It's a policy enacted by white folks, quite frankly. It's a policy invented by white presidents, Lyndon B. Johnson being the first, with an executive order that Trump has now rescinded. It's a policy enacted by white companies and white schools. This is not a policy that Black people or women or Americans with disabilities asked for. What they asked for was the enforcement of the Civil Rights Act. What we asked for was the enforcement of the Americans with Disabilities Act. White folks decided that the best way to enforce the Civil Rights Act and the American Disabilities Act was with these programs. So now if white folks and their white president wants to rescind these programs, that's fine. That's constitutional. That's the policy decision. The question becomes, if you're not going to enforce the Civil Rights Act through these programs, are you going to enforce it, Don? What's your next plan for ending discrimination in government hiring, Don?
I don't want
That's
reality.
The question that people should be asking Trump. And obviously the answer is that they don't intend to enforce the Civil Rights Act. They don't intend to enforce the American with Disabilities Act. And that's where Trump's actions are illegal and unconstitutional, right? So like it's a little bit of a bank shot here to understand that like ending DEI itself, that's not the problem. The racism and discrimination and bigotry, that's the actual constitutional problem. And that's what Trump is doing, right? So if you think about kind of a standard like workplace harassment lawsuit, right? That's in the Civil Rights Act. You cannot take hostile retaliatory actions against people based on their race. Mm-hmm. When he suspends every single person in the federal government based on them being DEIA without even being able to define what that is, what he's doing is creating a hostile work environment for anybody black, brown, woman, or with disabilities, or for anybody who is perceived to be black, brown, or a person with disabilities, because it doesn't actually define what DEIA is. So that's the constitutional problem. That's the legal problem, not ending the program, but the racism and bigotry inherent in the way that he is trying to end the programs.
And so he's getting rid of the apparatus that...
yeah, and they're getting rid of it without having any sort of replacement for what solves it. That's the point that Eli makes so eloquently here. So, like the DEI program was a solution, right, to dealing with the illegality of workplace discrimination and having some sort of way to quantify how much is happening, or if at all, in a workplace, right? And, ensuring that it doesn't happening. But you take this away without any sort of backstop to solve the problem that it was inherently intended to solve. And then you're left with a vacuum of potential, almost definitely instances of workplace discrimination that wouldn't have happened if this, the executive order wasn't handed down from on high.
Immediately, if not sooner.
For some measure of mitigating the opportunity for those problems to exist. Is that it?
Exactly. Like, again, the Civil Rights Act says that you cannot discriminate in hiring, right? The federal government is the largest employer in the country. It's also the largest employer in every single state. The federal government is supposed to be an equal opportunity employer. Now, again, you can enforce that. You can make that happen through having an equal opportunity commission. You can make the federal government an equal opportunity employer in various ways that you can come up with, right? But what you can't do is turn the federal government into a select preserve for only white cis hetero men, and that's what Trump is trying to do. The problem, Sam, and you already talked about his hand-picked Supreme Court. This Supreme Court, I don't think, believes that the Civil Rights Act should be a thing. I don't think this court believes that the Civil Rights Act should be unconstitutional. It should be constitutional. We already know that this court doesn't believe the Voting Rights Act should be constitutional. Like, John Roberts spent a decade slowly eviscerating the Voting Rights Act from 2013 in Shelby County all the way through Arizona v. Brnovich, right? So, like, he's eviscerated the Voting Rights Act because John Roberts has decided that racism has been defeated and that holding white people accountable to it is just being mean to whites. I mean, that's John Roberts's kind of internal monologue, I believe. So I don't know that when you sue the Trump administration under the Civil Rights Act, I don't know that you're doing anything other than giving the Supreme Court an opportunity to, if not directly overturn the Civil Rights Act, certainly greatly weaken and vitiate it. And that becomes the problem with letting Republicans control the courts that you and I have been complaining about for like 10 years now.
I mean,
yeah, this one's super long, so I'm gonna skip ahead to a little bit further down here. It's like a 40-minute long discussion. It's certainly worth watching if you haven't already seen it. But we have to split our attention between all sorts of stories here. Can't just do one thing all day. That's crazy.
That's too much, man!
Actions. Now, I will say one thing, one of the things that I try to remind people about the Supreme Court is that, yes, they're ideologues, yes, they're lawyers, yes, they're scholars, but they're also just people. They're also just like regular people, and they respond to regular people emotions and issues. And one of the things that I have learned that the Supreme Court generally doesn't like is to be treated like an afterthought, to be treated like they're already bought and paid for, even when they're already bought and paid for. And Trump's bluster here bespeaks of a man who thinks that the Supreme Court is already in his pocket.
Rubber stamp it, yeah.
Right, and that, again, at an interpersonal level, that might rankle some of the justices, and that might cause him problems down the road. But the other thing, Sam, and I think this is why it's so important to bring up the buyouts. Let's assume, in the kind of best case scenario, that many or most of these orders or attempts to get rid of the Civil Rights Act fail. They'll fail eventually in the best case scenario, but that eventual court order is going to come too late for thousands and thousands and thousands of federal workers who will have already been fired, who will already have been placed on leave, who maybe will have already taken buyouts because they don't want to work in a hostile work environment. And so just by doing this, even if it's eventually ruled illegal and unconstitutional, Trump has already won his goal of menacing and harassing Black, brown, women, and disabled Americans throughout the federal government. And there will be people who lose their jobs over this who will never come back.
I mean, the goal, just to quote Russell Vogt, who's is going to end up be the OMB, is to traumatize the federal workers. And,
absolutely. We talked about that one. And before we get too far past it, I just want to remind people, because we've been saying this for a while, but that Supreme Court ruling that determined the constitutionality of essentially prosecuting a president, right? Like any action done by a president, even ones before being in office, right, are basically presidential acts and constitutionally protected, then in my estimation, that makes anything that Donald Trump does unprosecutable, right? And unless the Supreme Court overturns that decision, which I guess they could do, I don't know. I think there would have to be another case for that to happen. I'm sure there'll be a time when it comes up in the next 4 years, but until that time, and what are we to expect when that next case goes to, or if it even makes it all the way there, right? Because how do cases come to the Supreme Court, right? Like, it has to go through the process, right? And God.
Well, different flavors of how they're going to try and traumatize people. But this is step one. I mean, if I'm a federal,
almost forgot. I noticed it earlier, and I should have gone straight to it rather than holding off. But we got to give you all your emotional support characters from the GCEU. But I've lost my dice. What's happening? Oh, there it is. Found it. Found it. Everything's fine. Was it 3 that we are owed? Ooh, 20, 11, 16. Okay.
people. But this is step one. I mean, if I'm a federal worker and in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whenever it is, the Supreme Court says, yeah, you can't do this. I'm just going to be like, okay, well, what's the next thing they're going to do? Mm-hmm. Like, there's no, they can keep them from doing this one tactic, but where's to enjoin them from doing the next tactic? Like we need to move. We're all relocating to, the desert in Arizona. That's where my agency's going.
Right? Like there's
anything wrong with the desert in Arizona, but I mean, if I live somewhere else,
it's a dry heat, right?
It's a dry heat.
It's true. That's a good point.
There's all kinds of petty, like, I've got to remember, this is one of Trump himself is probably one of the most petty people we've ever had in the White House. His entire administration is beset by small, cowardly, petty men. And so you got to think about what that kind of pettiness, how that plays out on the ground in the kind of office space situation, right?
Right.
We're talking about people who are going to be like, who are going to lose their staplers, right? We're talking about people who are going to be placed in a back office,
I was told,
given the crappiest version of work. And just, again, the whole point of the hostile work environment suit. Hostile work environment is not just somebody coming up to you and be like, "Hey, N-word, how you doing?" That's not illegal. Like, that's part of it, right? But there are all sorts of different ways a hostile work environment can take place. One of the ways that I don't, and Sam, because you know your viewers don't know, I play a lot of video games. And so when Blizzard got sued, Blizzard, the makers of World of Warcraft, got sued, I read every bit of that lawsuit, and some of the allegations in that lawsuit about the practices and Blizzard's offices. One thing really stood out to me about how the male co-workers would go into the fridge and drink the breast milk stored and pumped there by their female colleagues who had just come back from maternity leave.
Who does that?
And I was like, that's so disgusting, right?
Seriously. Have some goddamn class. Also, you know who does have class? Charlie Jinmir with a gifted galactic membership to official People's Party USA. That's a move. That's a classy move right there. Galactically classy.
But it's the definition of a hostile work environment, right? It's the definition of making somebody's job untenable just by your male bro behavior. And so when I think about what's going to happen to these federal workers, for whatever reason, I think about the breast milk guy, right? I think about, like, those are the guys that Trump is appointing. Those are the guys that Trump is hiring. And those are the guys who think that they are now untouchable and can do whatever they want to their black coworkers or female coworkers or disabled coworkers.
Yeah.
Let's talk about yesterday's illegal thing. Now, I got to get more specific because there was multiple. The unprecedented firing of a National Labor Relations Board commission member. That's never happened without cause and without even like claiming cause. Again, this shuts down the labor board. It needs a quorum to function. Same with the EEOC. People that Trump appointed to the EEOC. Like this time around, they really know they have planned for this. But let's talk about the Impoundment Control Act. We played a clip of Donald Trump in 2023, basically outlining what he was going to do. This came from Russell Vogt. It came from the Project for 2025. This is almost like foundational. There are two things, it seems to me. The Schedule F, get rid of all the civil servants. And the other is essentially defund whatever he wants to, despite congressional appropriation. Hopefully, I think by now, over the past 2 days, this audience knows that the 1974 Impoundment Control Act and the Train v. New York City cases, more or less around the same time, I think it was, both as a matter of the Supreme Court precedent established this and the statutory presence of it. And then, of course, just like an OLC memo in 1988 and also the Constitution, which says appropriation. We now know what that
and also the whole Constitution. Yeah, all of that. That is honestly a great conversation. We only watched bits and pieces of it. I would recommend. I feel like most people have probably seen parts of it already, since we have a lot of viewers here who watch the Majority Report. Now, let's talk about some people who might be affected by all of this DEI stuff. DEIA, as this group of kids are, they fall under the A, I believe.
There are some people whose stories just command attention.
You try again and again, because unless you're willing to make mistakes, you can never learn from those mistakes.
His name's Kyle Schulze. He is the Death Ninja.
That's the key, practice.
What this crew's learning about is Kyle's run as a contestant on the obstacle course TV show, American Ninja Warrior.
That was my goal, to finally hit that buzzer, and I finally got it.
Speaking of obstacle courses, there's something waiting for everyone in the next room. Let's call it a little audience participation. Well, yeah, it looks easy when you do it. And now for a little game of the floor is lava.
Oh shit.
You see, Kyle was born deaf. He was a natural athlete, but didn't have many deaf role models. So since 2018, he's been that for kids. He travels across the country to give presentations to children who are deaf and hard of hearing.
I give them a fist bump, just right up close to see that I'm just like the same person that they are, so they can actually see, okay, I'm similar to this guy.
Here, kids from the Franklin Special District, Williamson County, and other local families are taking part. The event's happening with help from Gentry's Educational Foundation and the Tennessee Disability Coalition. Among the kids is Kelly Bandis' son.
Super athletic kid.
The boundless energy that is CJ. Hey,
that kid's got a lot of energy.
CJ's deaf, was
boy.
born deaf, and he didn't have any sort of amplification until he was 4.
Mom, he videoed me!
Something else about CJ, give him a challenge, and he is all in.
CJ's never seen an obstacle that he couldn't tackle in all senses of the word. He's really brave, he's strong.
And sometimes things don't work entirely to plan. Sometimes you need a little help from a friend.
That's good.
But what Kyle is teaching is the possibilities that come from confidence. And the support of a community.
To see that they can achieve something simple as these obstacles, apply that for their life.
So for him to come in and present about something really cool for these kids, show them that they can do something really amazing, is a huge thing. Events like this really bolster his self-confidence, and you can just see how it brings out the light in these kids.
I just thought that was a touching story. I think it's important that we have these sorts of programs available to kids where they can have role models that actually represent them. It's one of the reasons why DEIA is a thing, right? Because, I think it's easier to relate for the kids to somebody who is also deaf, right? See somebody who they can be looking to as a role model who also is doing great things. They can do, I just think it's a great story. If you didn't quite catch it, that guy, I think he won the American Ninja competition. Now, all right. Let's talk about sound in a different way. As a recent flight test, in a recent flight test, a U.S. jet has now broken the sound barrier in an attempt to revive supersonic travel. And if you didn't know, we used to have supersonic travel. The Concorde, that is no longer a thing. This company is trying to bring it back. See how I did that segue? From deafness to the sound barrier.
The return of supersonic air travel just might have come a step closer.
There we are. XB-1 is supersonic, faster than the speed of sound.
US startup Boom Supersonic sent its XB-1 jet through the sound barrier on Tuesday. It says the test flight over the Mojave Desert marked the first time any privately funded plane has hit the landmark speed. Legendary pilot Chuck Yeager was the first human to exceed the sound barrier back in 1947. Such speeds have since become routine for many military aircraft. But supersonic travel hasn't been on offer to airline passengers for some 2 decades. That is, since the Anglo-French Concorde was retired in 2003. Its success was limited by high operating costs that made tickets very expensive. Now Boom has plans to develop a successor. Dubbed Overture, it's meant to carry up to 80 passengers across the Atlantic in about 3.5 hours. That's roughly
fast.
half the time taken by a regular jet. Company CEO Blake Scholl says regulations are now the main stumbling block.
Today we have one of the silliest rules in the world, which is you can't fly supersonic over land, no matter how quiet the airplane is. And so we're picking up where Concorde left off. Initially, we'll fly right under the speed of sound, over land, which is still 20% faster than a Boeing or Airbus. And over the water, we'll open up the throttles and go twice as fast.
Boom hopes those regulations.
Yeah, but those regulations are there for reasons. Now, there have been claims that newer sound breaking technology has improved in terms of how loud it is when it crosses that threshold and whatnot. But, you know, it's good to see that we're considering bringing back supersonic travel. All right, now let's go. This is a bad segue. I mean, it is what it is, but this is the only way I felt like doing this today. So let's go and talk about the plane crashes that happened over the last week. Of course, I'm fairly certain everybody here is aware of what happened in DC and in Philadelphia at this point, I think. But two civilian aircraft have crashed this week. So let's go here.
So if I heard the two of you correctly, you have 12 victims that you have yet to recover, but you believe you have 11 sets of remains that you've seen based on the dives you've done so far. Did I not hear that correctly?
So the question was doing our math. We have identified, let me get the number that I gave, 55? 55, I want to be clear on that we have positively identified. We did remove 11 sets of remains yesterday from the wreckage during our operation. So those two number, the 55 includes from that 11, okay? So we're still searching for the delta between it.
And you expect that when you lift the fuselage that you'll be able to recover more remains in the fuselage? Or in the two?
So
I know you have
that's part of this operation, right? We're gonna, as we recover the fuselage, we expect that we'll find more, but we may also need to do additional searches in other areas.
Okay, so yeah, that's just sort of the latest update from officials in DC. Those were fire officials who have been involved in the recovery of bodies and the wreckage itself all week. That was the DC fire chief speaking about all of that, saying that at least 55 people have been identified as victims in this crash. Now let's go to Philadelphia, where another plane crash happened just days after that one. Also over a civilian area. Let's go here. This is the Associated Press from 8 hours ago.
Some of the information that you are going to hear is repetitive. You've heard it before, but we are being very intentional during this time about making sure that we reinforce the facts, because there is so much misinformation about the issue on social media, and we want to make sure that all of those impacted benefit from the same facts that we as the city of Philadelphia have. We can also confirm that there was at least one other person who perished, and that was the individual I referenced who was in the car, and there were additional victims who were injured, and they are being treated. We talked about it, nearby hospitals, but that number has now increased to 22. 5 of the victims remain hospitalized currently, and 3 of them are in critical condition. We have not, out of respect for their families and their loved ones, shared the names of any of those who have been impacted.
Wayback Machine.
Well, there you go. That was the mayor of Philadelphia. Cheryl is her name. But the just sort of laying out the current state of things. At least 22 people were injured, 5 of which are still hospitalized, 3 in critical condition. Just horrifying. He's in a residential neighborhood. Now, earlier today, this is from about 3 hours ago, a black box was recovered from the jet.
Tonight is the continuing investigation into the deadly medical jet crash in northeast Philadelphia on Friday night. Here's some of the latest developments. Sources tell Action News the jet's black box recorder was located about 8 feet inside of a crater left by the crash that will expectedly shed some light on what happened in the moments before the tragedy. Tonight, the death toll stands at 7, but the number of those injured has increased from 19 to 22, with 5 still in the hospital. Authorities late this afternoon reopened the inner and outer drives of Roosevelt Boulevard, and schools in the area of the crash will be open. Action News reporters Brianna Smith and Katie Catro are following the aftermath of the crash. We begin with Brianna and the latest in the investigation. Brianna.
Walter, city leaders say it's been 48 hours and hundreds of dedicated workers remain at the scene, helping residents, business owners, and collecting evidence. And during their search, they were able to find that black box, which will be a key part of their investigation. The NTSB released this video today as they scoured the crater created by the medical jet on impact in northeast Philadelphia Friday evening. In that hole, investigators found the black box in decent condition about 8 feet below ground. We also learned more about the 4 crew members who tragically lost their lives. Jet Rescue Air Ambulance identified them as Captain Alon Montoya, co-pilot Josue Juarez, paramedic Rodrigo Padilla, and Dr. Raul Mesa. The patient, 11-year-old Valentina Guzman Murillo, and her mother, Lizeth Murillo Osuna, also passed away.
Our city continues to mourn their loss, and they are in our thoughts and prayers.
The NTSB says Learjet 55 was traveling to Missouri before heading to Mexico when it crashed less than a minute after takeoff, causing a massive explosion. Mayor Sherelle Parker says 1 person in a vehicle also died, and the number of those injured is now 22.
5 of the victims remain hospitalized.
Okay, well, there you go. They did recover a black box underground at the site of the crash. Investigation still ongoing. I think the majority of the victims, in terms of the ones who died, of the 7, I think they were all the ones on the plane, and I think almost all of the injuries are of people who are on the ground. Now let's go on to this. Speaking of investigations, here's a guy who's supposed to do investigations. If he were to get confirmed in the Senate, one Kash Patel.
Mother of his own.
Chuck, we don't need you.
Do you mean?
Is Patel. Senator. Welcome, Mr. Patel. Do you believe America is an exceptional nation?
It's the greatest nation.
Your family went through a lot to get here.
They sure did.
And your life story is, I think, a great example of people pursuing the American dream. Do you believe a large part of what makes America an exceptional nation is the rule of law?
It is one of the fundamental precepts that determines that.
And why is that?
Because without a singular application of a rule of law, we go back to the Uganda that my father fled in Idi Amin.
I believe that the 2 most important institutions in America to preserve and protect and enforce the rule of law are the FBI and the Department of Justice. And the sort of politicalization that Senator Graham and others have already talked about during the Crossfire Hurricane investigation or project of James Comey at the FBI and the
You know, I gotta say, it's an interesting reference to make. Sometimes I feel like Donald Trump kind of wants to be the Idi Amin of the United States.
Use of intelligence tools like Title I of Section 702 are a betrayal of American values and adherence to the rule of law. And I think your biggest task is going to be, along with Pam Bondi at the Office of the Attorney General, is to restore the rule of law to the Department of Justice and the FBI. Are you willing to do that?
Absolutely, Senator.
Without regard to partisan affiliation or politics?
Absolutely.
Do you believe President Trump, as the commander-in-chief, needs access to all of the lawfully available intelligence that can be collected by the American intelligence community in order to inform him so that he can make good judgments as commander-in-chief to assure the safety and security?
So what I found fascinating about this, oh God, what is this? Why can't I think of this guy's name right now? John Cornyn. I was very confused why John decided to take the tack that he did here. For most of this 4 or 5 minutes, 8 minutes, honestly, well, actually, I guess it's a little bit less, but like 7 or so minutes of him questioning Kash. He barely talks anything about his insane conspiracy theory beliefs or his expressed intents to do all this stuff. Politically motivated attacks and arrests. He mostly talks about whether or not he thinks that the FBI should be able to use, what is it, Title 702 or something like that, which is basically the legislation that allowed the mass surveillance of U.S. citizens. It's like, what's it called? I can't think of the name of it. Prism or whatever the name. That's basically what goes on. And Kash is actually like, I think Prism's pretty good. I think that we should be able to mass surveil people, but just everybody, and have it not be politically motivated. And
of the American people?
Having been responsible for the collection and predication and promulgation of that intelligence, I firmly believe he and every president must have it.
And
every president must be able to check in on everybody's webcams immediately.
Immediately, if not sooner.
All right. Now let's see what Senator Chris Coons had to ask Kash Patel.
Thank you, Chairman Grassley. Mr. Patel, our agencies, in particular the FBI and DOJ, critically rely on inspectors general and general counsels for advice. As Chair Grassley and many of us have long recognized, federal agencies rely on the independent oversight of inspectors general, and agencies depend on the legal advice of offices of general counsel. And as you've testified today, it's your intention to lead the FBI within the boundaries of law and the Constitution. Last week, President Trump fired more than a dozen inspectors general and provided no notice to Congress. We passed a law in 2022 requiring the president to provide Congress with a substantive rationale, including detailed and case-specific reasons, 30 days before the removal of NEIG.
Now, I don't want
How many
reality.
days has President Trump been in office?
Sorry, Senator.
How many?
10.
Yeah,
Is
there we
it
go.
possible to give 30 days notice in 10 days?
I'm not great at math, but it doesn't sound like it.
It doesn't.
It's
You're an
science.
attorney. Did Trump facially violate this law in terms of the timing of the firing of the inspectors general?
Senator, I'm not going to entertain a hypothetical on legal violations, but I will look into all possible legal violations.
That's not what a hypothetical
I'll simply
is.
say that for...
How is that a hypothetical? What does that mean? This is something that just happened. How is that hypothetical?
But I will look into all possible legal violations referred.
I'll simply say that for those of us concerned about the quality and the duration of service of inspectors general, this was troubling. And frankly, I think it is a facial violation of a law passed by Congress. In September 2023, on the Great America Show, a podcast, you said, and I believe I'm quoting accurately, all these general counsel's offices throughout every agency and department need to be slashed in half because these lawyers just come in there and they come in there to slow down and paralyze the movement of the America First agenda. Mr. Patel, does that comment suggest that if confirmed, it would be your intention to fire the career civil servants, the lawyers in the FBI's general counsel office?
No.
Could you give us any...
Wow, no, that's not what that means. What the hell does it mean? My God, I have no other way of interpreting that. It's very confusing.
Lawyers in the FBI's general counsel office?
No.
Could you give us any reassurance that it would be your intention to listen to the advice and counsel of the Inspector General of the department and the General Counsel of the agency?
With addressing those in order, Senator, with IGs, as you know, I believe, and I've shown throughout this proceeding that IGs have provided invaluable service in Republican and Democratic administrations. And I think they're critical, and we must have competent IGs going forward.
He thinks they're so critical that it's fine that they all got fired. Okay, Kash. These are sound legal opinions coming from Kash. My God, I have no further questions. Actually, wait, I have a lot of further questions, sorry. But let's go and see what this guy, Eric Schmidt, Republican senator of, what is it, Indiana? I always forget where Eric Schmidt is from. Let's see, he had rapid fire questions here for Kash. Let's see what all he had to say. Ohio?
And has forcefully defended Mr. Patel. General Cotta said,
Chuck.
I never heard the words that somebody's saying.
I love how Chuck can't even pronounce Patel. Was that 2 syllables? Come on, Chuck. Be better. Oh, here we go.
Disagreement.
Missouri, sorry.
I hear none. Senator Schmidt.
Eric Schmidt is senator from Missouri.
It's good to see you, Mr. Patel. It's great to have your family here. I know they must be very proud. I have to tell you, I saw up close and personal how politically weaponized the FBI had become.
Oh, God.
In my former job as Attorney General of Missouri, we brought the Missouri versus Biden lawsuit, which uncovered this vast censorship.
It's a proud moment in your history.
Where,
by the way,
the federal
John Kennedy back here, he is chewing on something back there. I do not know what, but the entire questioning. John is just chewing away at some sort of cud, perhaps, maybe some corn nuts. I do not know.
Which uncovered this vast censorship enterprise where the federal government coerced and colluded with some of the biggest companies in the history of the world to suppress speech. And not just that, actually to pre-bunk the Hunter Biden laptop story.
Pre-bunked it.
The FBI had the laptop in November
That's illegal.
2019.
I love how upset I love how he just made a new word. Pre-bunk. That's the same thing as debunking, okay? It's hilarious. Ahead of the debunking, they pre-bunked it, making the debunking superfluous, and that is a circumvention of the law.
Illegal.
In November of 2019, they met with senior executives. Yoel Roth, who was the main guy at Twitter at the time, signed an affidavit saying they were talking specifically about the laptop. It could be Hunter Biden's, pre-bunking it, calling it a Russian hack and leak operation. They knew it was true. They knew it was his laptop.
There was a laptop.
So
it had dick pics on it, and we needed to see them before the election so we could decide whether that hog deserved our vote.
The rot is deep. And the time
So
for
deep.
you is now, and I'm glad, because reform is needed. Senator Durbin referenced your book. I think it's a good.
great
Everyone should
Senator
read the book.
Dick Durbin.
Because I want to ask you about some quotes that are in the book, because a lot's been made of it. usually just some of the endnotes, but the content of the book.
Wait,
Did you
Cash's
say
book?
in the book,
In the kids'
American
book?
justice must never be selective. If the law is applied unevenly, democracy crumbles. Did you say that?
I did, Senator.
You did it.
When agencies like the FBI and the CIA prioritize politics over truth, the nation suffers. Did you say that?
I sure did, Senator.
Accountability isn't optional. Those who violate the public trust must face real consequences, regardless of their rank or title. Did you say that?
I did, Senator.
Okay. There's a lot more in there. I know that Senator Tillis has got the game of bingo. I'd like to play another game. Would you rather?
Let's have at it.
Oh, Cash is excited.
Would you rather
Listen to that
the
chuckle.
FBI prosecute and persecute parents who voice legitimate concerns at school board meetings, or should it investigate domestic terrorists who commit school shootings and threaten the lives of Americans?
What about the Venn diagram where those two things coalesce? Should we investigate those people? Have you heard of, what's it called? Oh, I can't remember the name of this horrible organization that's been accused of being terrorists and also going to school boards and harassing teachers and parents. God damn it. Why can't I think of the name of that organization? But that would be like the sort of the epitome of I'm talking about, where you're doing both of those things. Should we investigate those people? I think I know the answer that we would get here from Mr. Schmidt.
Should it investigate domestic terrorists who commit school shootings and threaten the lives of American children?
Absolutely investigate and prioritize the safety of our children and any actual and real domestic
Moms
terrorists,
for Liberty,
as I've
thank you.
prosecuted in my
That's
past
the
in the
one.
Obama Justice Department.
Would you rather the FBI be weaponized by investigating presidential candidates, political opponents, spying on and wiretapping candidates' advisors, or should the FBI get back to its core mission and get politics out of the FBI?
There should be no politics in the FBI, and having been a
Immediately,
victim
if not
of
sooner.
weaponization of law enforcement.
Oh, the
against me,
victims of
I know what that
weaponized law
feels like,
enforcement.
and if I'm confirmed, I will make
Political
sure no American
police.
feels that sleight of hand ever again.
Never again.
Would you rather the FBI target traditional Catholics as extremists, or should the FBI focus on investigating actual threats posed to the American people by cartels pumping fentanyl into our communities through the southern border?
100,000 deaths due to fentanyl and drug overdoses in 1 year. I'd rather the FBI focus on that and save our children.
I guess we're going to shut down the the pharmaceutical companies in the United States who also make fentanyl and opioids as well. Will that be the investigations, or is he just talking about, people coming across the Mexican border? Is that the only issue? I feel like that's what it is, right?
Would you rather the FBI ignore when thugs threaten to harm and plot against Supreme Court justices, or should the FBI actually investigate that and get to the bottom of it?
I'm so glad you brought that up, Senator. This body passed a law to protect our justices of the peace, including the Supreme Court, and every single justice of the peace deserves that enforcement of that law so they can do their duty.
Would you rather?
Right. Okay. This is a fun rapid fire, but it's not rapid enough for me, so I'm moving on from these idiots. It's just full-on political grandstanding. He's like, I feel like Cash knows the answers to all these questions ahead of time, sort of thing. Just go on and on about some of the dumbest things. The way that some of these questions are phrased are hilarious. But we can't just stare into the abyss of what the future FBI is most likely going to be like, because I haven't heard a single Republican senator raise one sort of objection to Cash's nomination as of yet. So fairly certain he's going to be appointed. Not appointed, he's going to be approved by way of the Senate process here. I assume the vote's going to happen starting early this week on this, I would think. Where are we? Oh, let's talk about another guy who was in the Senate hearings trying to get his nomination approved. One RFK Jr.
consistent with the idea that you don't need to know anything about your job if you're going to be put in the head of an agency, or you're working at an agency for that matter. Remember, the Office of Personnel Management, we have read through Wired, staffed by now, and I got nothing wrong with people who don't go to college, but I think that like maybe more than just a semester internship at Neuralink, or I should say a summer internship at Neuralink, should qualify you to be at an agency, at the top of an agency. OPM, they had and you know, listen, lifeguards are important, but I think working as a summer lifeguard not necessarily qualify you for this position in government, because I know we're getting rid of the DEI hires. But what about lifeguards? We need to have lifeguards. That's diverse. Not just people who have qualifications for jobs.
It's true. It's true.
That
could be DEI too.
Top,
you know,
lawyer,
the qualified and the unqualified.
Immediately, if not sooner.
At the Office of Personnel Management, HR, self-described raging misogynist with a history of racist comments and insistence on loyalty to Donald Trump.
I mean, this woman is dangerous.
Let's check in with the proposed Secretary of Health and Human Services. Now, a lot of people out there might be on the impression that, like, oh, all you need to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services is A, to feel like people should eat healthy food. Great idea. B, a sense that things like measles are not that deadly, and vaccines are probably not a good idea. And if you could go back in time, you would get your kids unvaccinated. There's more to the job than that, because HHS runs, among other things, Medicare and Medicaid. Now, that constitutes like what?
An
eighth?
It's sizable.
I mean, healthcare in and of itself constitutes 1/4 of our GDP.
But of our population, with 61 million on Medicare and 72 million on Medicaid, and then there's 7 million on CHIP, which is the children's health insurance.
So you're talking about a little bit less than half. So maybe let's say, like, okay, this is an eighth of our economy. Fully an eighth of our economy, minimum. And that's just those two programs, 3 programs. You would think that you should know some of the basic outlines of it. And now, I don't know if you do, people listening to us, because you're not the nominee for HHS Secretary. Just a reminder, Medicare you get at age 65. Medicare is a government-run health insurance program. There are options also within Medicare. One is called Medicare Advantage. It's basically a privatization scheme of Medicare. The government has known that it overbills and that it is subject to all sorts of, like, let's just call it hijinks. Like, you can lose your coverage, you can lose they'll change the providers around, they'll change what is on their schedule of drugs, et cetera, and it's very hard to get out of it once you opt in. Medicaid.
Hey, thank you for the gifted Galactic membership. D-Cipher, Miskatonic Petrol and Soda Fountain was gifted that membership. Very nice, very nice.
Is for low-income people, and up to 400% of the poverty line, if I'm not mistaken. You are eligible through Medicaid expansion, or I should say 133%, of the poverty line. Not all the states, some Republican states haven't expanded that way, but up to 100%. Now, it is block granted. Medicare is actually provided by the federal government. It's a federal insurance. Medicaid is block granted, more or less, to states, and they get to implement it in different ways. But it is, when they deliver it, it is free. Medicare has a small copay and sometimes some deductibles as well. Go ahead. Oh, this is a question, I should say, from John Cassidy, right? Bill Cassidy from Louisiana.
Republicans, again, are looking at ways to potentially reform Medicaid to help, pay for President Trump's priorities, but to improve outcomes. What
Pause it. Okay, incidentally, and it's good that he said that first. President Trump's priorities are tax cuts for wealthy people. So we're looking for cuts and improve outcomes, of course. Of course. I mean, of course, we want to improve outcomes, which of course means like, how can we have less people on it? Or how can we save money? Go ahead.
Don't be creepy. Again, are looking at ways to potentially reform Medicaid to help pay for President Trump's priorities, but to improve outcomes. What thoughts do you have regarding Medicaid reform?
Well, Medicaid is not working for Americans, and it's specifically not working for the target population. Most Americans, like myself, I'm on Medicare Advantage, and I'm very happy with it.
Pause it.
Oh, wow.
Now, first of all, most Americans are not on Medicare Advantage.
Right.
It is a subset of people who are on Medicare.
Yeah, seriously. And it's one of those what do you call it? Privatized healthcare schemes. It's a UHC run program, isn't it? Something we've been criticizing quite a lot. But something I would never criticize is Rob Skeltz gifting 5 sweet galactic memberships to our viewers. I see a lot of familiar names in this one. Kindness Crew, Carolyn Carter, The Soulcraft, Mordant Inky Cap, and Mozart, all receiving galactic memberships due to the generosity of Rob Skeltz.
People with Medicare Advantage actually largely are unhappy with Medicare Advantage. But when you're asked about Medicaid and your response is, I'm on Medicare Advantage, is like, I guess like, how did you find Grapes of Wrath, Sam, as a book, now that you're giving us a book report? Well, I'll tell you something. Fahrenheit 451, that's a great book.
Right. So he's touting essentially that he's on private health insurance.
He's buying time because he didn't even
think about it.
Somehow anticipate that this most basic question.
He's got to.
I mean, that just shows you how much effort that all these nominees are putting into these new jobs they're being given by the old government here. Actually, no, let's watch a little bit more of this. We're doing okay on time. Sunday fun day.
In between tea cycles. Let's go, buddy.
Go ahead.
Most Americans, like myself, I'm on Medicare Advantage, and I'm very happy with it. Most people who are on Medicaid are not happy. The premiums are too high. The deductibles are too high.
Oh, pause it for a second. Wait a second.
What?
The premiums are too high
For
on Medicaid.
Medicaid?
Is that why they don't like it? And the deductibles are too high.
When?
Bradley, can you Google what is the average Medicaid premium? That's like what you pay for your insurance. What is the average Medicaid premium? Because this must be
it's huge.
Probably
It's
too
gotta
high.
be massive.
What is it, Bradley? Could you tell me?
Generally considered to be near zero.
Near zero. That's odd.
That is
of
a
course,
lot.
Medicaid
That's a good
is
point.
a program for low-income people, and they pay zero premiums. What is the average Medicaid deductible? I probably should have asked this before the show. Let's see.
Typically very low or even no deductible.
Oh, so it's almost zero. What? That's interesting. Well, maybe Bobby is familiar, RFK Jr. is familiar with a different type of Medicaid. Or maybe he's just misspeaking. Let's hold that up here. Maybe he's just misspeaking. We'll keep that right on the side. Go ahead.
Are not happy. The premiums are too high. The deductibles are too high. The networks are narrow. The best doctors will not accept it in the best hospitals. And particularly, Medicaid was really designed for a target population, the poorest Americans. It's now been dramatically expanded. And the irony of the expansion is that the poorest Americans are now being robbed. Their services have dramatically decreased, even though we've increased the price of Medicare by 60% over the last 4 years.
All right, pause it. Now, I'm going to assume he got Medicare wrong when he said he've increased because he's conflating Medicaid and Medicare. Which, to be fair, there's a lot of people in junior high who do that. And even...
Yeah, that's true. A lot of kids in high school, middle school, struggling to understand the difference between Medicaid and Medicare, and that's, that's to be expected. But the future director of Health and Human Services, that makes a little less sense. It's a little confusing. Anyway, just got done with talking about how RFK's on privatized health insurance. Doesn't seem to understand how any of it all works. What people pay. Really any of it. Oh, God. But let's just move on from healthcare. Talk about the guy who's putting him there and how he is going to be enriching himself by way of social media, as he owns a public company, multiple public companies, as well as Truth Social, the preferred twittering platform from just the worst person and his everybody who's forced to watch. I don't think anybody uses Truth Social aside from following Donald Trump. It's his own private platform. It's the weirdest vibe ever. Not only does he have his own currency, he has his own media. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Let's go here. To CNBC from 6 months ago. Go web go.
Truth Social is a social media platform majority owned by former President Donald Trump and his business partners. These investors say they want to end big tech's assault on free speech.
The type of person to trade X, now Twitter or Facebook, for Truth Social tended to be very passionate Donald Trump supporters.
I don't think that Truth Social was ever a rational endeavor. I see it as a vanity project.
After a buzzy launch, the project has the potential to make the former president a lot of money, despite its struggle to make a profit.
If there's anybody out there that has held since the $10 IPO price, they've roughly tripled their money.
It's certainly not turning a profit right now. A lot of analysts say that it is Trump who is the big draw for these retail investors.
This has all the ingredients of a good old-fashioned meme stock rally.
Share prices for the company can move when the former president breaks big news on Truth Social. Mr. Trump used the platform to confirm that a bullet grazed his right ear in a failed assassination attempt, and to comment on President Biden dropping his 2024 presidential campaign. So, what is Truth Social? And how much money can it make? A team led by Donald Trump launched Truth Social in the first quarter of 2022, after the former president was permanently banned from Twitter.
Truth Social itself is structured very similarly to X, formerly Twitter.
You might say exactly
so, where
like it.
X, formerly Twitter, may have a tweet, Truth Social.
I love how they put them up right next to each other, because if you just replace truth with post, it's the exact same. The exact same. Oh, God.
Calls those truths. Where X, formerly Twitter, may have a retweet, Truth Social calls those retruths. Generally, they have the same sort of timeline setup.
The idea of Truth Social to begin with was to bring an alternative to liberal platforms.
It has a conservative bent. It was framed from the start around being sort of this bulwark against big tech and woke ideology and liberal media and all the rest of that. And its main revenue, its only revenue, in fact, comes from advertising sales.
Truth Social declined to verify its usage data with CNBC and described outside estimates as fake.
Normally, social media companies post KPIs, key performance indicators. They show how many daily active users they have. Trump Media is not posting any of that information right now.
Weird. The analytics firm SimilarWeb estimates that TruthSocial.com received 5.3 million total visits in June 2024. Compare that to about 7.3 billion for X.com, formerly known as Twitter.com, and 15.3 billion total visits for Meta's Facebook.com alone, which has had 2 decades to build its audience. This count doesn't include Meta's audiences on Instagram or other platforms.
Wow.
Meta has...
It's almost like people are literally only going there for Donald Trump and no other reason. Jeez. It's 1,000 to 1. If you just start with Twitter, which is also dying. Facebook, 3 to 1. 3,000 to 1.
This count doesn't include Meta's audiences on Instagram or other platforms. Meta has monetized its audience with a little over $35.6 billion in advertising revenue in the first quarter of 2024. Truth Social earned $770,000 in the same period. Truth Social and other emerging platforms like Rumble and Telegram say they emphasize free speech and creator control.
Yeah, so this is the thing, though, about all this, right? Is since Truth Social is completely dependent on Donald Trump, and Donald Trump's wealth is greatly tied up in it. Not entirely, but a lot of his wealth is tied up in Truth Social stock, which is taking something of a dive, like nearly 30% since the high in 2024. You know, there's a fucked up incentive structure going on here where the president, a man in power, somehow can funnel money to his site, force users to use a site that no one is using just to enrich himself, right? He could just use Twitter. He could just use, another social media platform to post, but he has his own, right? So every time he truths, media has to go there, other people go there to find out what it is Donald Trump said. And that means that he will be able to monetize that as president. And that's problematic. I don't think the president should be worrying about clicks or daily active users. just gonna say, think about what the algorithm has promoted, right? All right.
Donald Trump owns about 65% of the company behind Truth Social. That stake alone was worth over $3.9 billion at the end of June 2024, not including his warrant options on the same stock.
Trump's stake is huge. He had something like a 57-58% stake in Trump Media. Illegal. And about a month after the company went public and started trading on the NASDAQ, he got 36 million more shares, and that equates to a couple $1 billion, even as the stock price is swinging wildly up and down. And so it's been a huge windfall for him. So that raises a lot of questions about what Trump sees as the value of this social media company. If he's going to just dump his stake, take the money and run, and leave the company kind of in the lurch, or if he really believes that it is going to do what it says it's going to do, which is create this big bulwark against big tech. But in the meantime, it's been a pretty good trade for him so far.
SEC filings for the company say it could potentially fail to live up to its promise to generate users and advertisers.
Social media traditionally makes money from advertisements and, even more importantly, from harvesting and analyzing and sharing our personal data. Can Truth Social rely on this model for revenue? The short answer is probably not, because the site is so small. It's significantly smaller than Facebook and Twitter and even something like Threads.
There have also been a tangle of other lawsuits, some of which are still ongoing.
But here's the problem that I see, right? Because other companies, other very wealthy people, have been basically acquiescing or, essentially bowing themselves, genuflecting to Donald Trump by way of basically monetary gifts, right? So even if they don't expect to make money, Jeff Bezos can say, let's spend 20% of the ad budget on Truth Social, even if it's not going to make the company money. Who cares? We'll make it up with influence with Donald Trump. We'll let him know that's what we're doing, and he won't mind at all. He'll be thrilled to hear that. The same thing goes for all the other tech oligarchs, right? It doesn't actually have to make them money from the actual marketing, just from the potential influence it might buy with the President of the United States. Now, of course, ever since Donald Trump got into office, he has been deporting people, even non-criminals. They even attempted to deport a American citizen until they realized that he was, in fact, just a military vet who probably looked a little ethnic or something, maybe a little too brown.
Illegal.
You're under arrest for being brown. But some people have, you know, taken to the streets over these immigration orders from Donald Trump, these deportation efforts from the administration. Let's see what people in San Francisco were doing earlier in the week.
As a son of immigrant farm workers, I have seen the strength and the determination of our...
In San Francisco, we value our immigrant communities. We recognize your contributions to our city, and we stand with you. You belong here.
Divide and conquer. And so we must stand united. I think the show of unity here is...
We are going to make sure that our sanctuary policies and laws that have been in place for decades here in San Francisco continue. We are not going to support warrantless searches. We are not going to provide resources to separate families and to separate communities here in San Francisco.
To say simply, we are not defeated.
First of all, the San Francisco Police Department does not assist in immigration raids. More generally, the city provides services without regard to immigration status and without collecting information about immigration status unless it's required by state or federal law. Next, targeting immigrants who have built families, businesses, and homes here does not improve public safety. It does the exact opposite.
We're not bringing this fight, but if he chooses to violate the rule of law, we will meet him in court. The purpose of sanctuary laws has been to protect public safety. When immigrant families trust law enforcement, victims and witnesses come forward. Criminals are arrested, crimes are solved, and we know what happens when the opposite is true. We know that effective law enforcement requires community trust. To be safe, our immigrant families and workers must trust. Our victims and witnesses need to know that our police officers are not ICE agents.
For all San Francisco.
There we go. So that was earlier in the week. It was Tuesday, where leaders and allies gathered in front of City Hall in San Francisco to show their support and that they are unwilling to work with Donald Trump and his plans, ICE, etc. Let's go now south. Talk about Mexican businesses who are concerned about the effects of these tariffs, which were in fact signed into law on Saturday. Here's the AP.
La iniciativa privada está muy preocupada.
Oops.
Hay una alerta, hay focos rojos, hay incertidumbre desde el punto de vista.
Sorry, hold on. There is the need for translations. All right, here we go. Take two. Take two.
La iniciativa privada está muy preocupada.
The private initiative is very concerned. There is an alert. There are red flags. There is uncertainty from an economic point of view because the fact that they impose 25% tariffs is going to take competitiveness to many companies, and there will be a lot of inflation. Yesterday I said that I have no worries because Mexico's economy is very strong, excellent, and that is what we're going to do for working people who work every day to move our country forward. So there you go, that was Claudia Sheinbaum saying that the Mexican economy is strong and that workers will get through this one. Now, she came out and made another statement from the presidential office in Mexico This is Guardian News from 4 hours ago. Mexico does not want confrontation. We start from a place of collaboration between neighboring countries. Mexico does not only does not want fentanyl to reach the United States, but we do not want it to reach anywhere. Therefore, if the United States wants to combat criminal groups and wants to do it together, we must work in a comprehensive manner, but always under the principles of shared responsibility. Wait, was shared? Mutual trust, collaboration, and above all, respect for sovereignty. Sovereignty is not negotiable. Coordination, yes. Subordination, no. To this end, yesterday, in my statement, I proposed to President Trump that we establish a working group with our best teams, security, and also public health. It is not with the imposition of tariffs that the problems will be resolved, but speaking and dialoguing as we did. Because I want to tell you this. We did it this way in recent weeks with the State Department to address the problem of immigration. All right, well, there's Claudia Sheinbaum putting her best foot forward, but not her neck out. Not willing to subordinate herself or Mexico to Donald Trump and his whims. I thought it was a good message. You know, here was a message you may have missed. This was from yesterday after the Trump tariffs were put out. Justin Trudeau of Canada came out to say and also do this.
Tonight, I am announcing Canada will be responding to the U.S. trade action with 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods. This will include immediate tariffs on $30 billion worth of goods as of Tuesday, followed
Don't do that.
Followed by further tariffs on $125 billion worth of American products in 21 days' time to allow Canadian companies and supply chains to seek to find alternatives. Like the American tariffs, our response will also be far-reaching and include everyday items such as American beer, wine, and bourbon, fruits and fruit juices, including orange juice, along with vegetables, perfume, clothing, and shoes. It'll include major consumer products like household appliances, furniture, and sports equipment, and materials like lumber and plastics, along with much, much more.
Well, there you go. Justin Trudeau putting his foot down with the United States over these tariffs, following through with what he said before, and placing tariffs on U.S. goods going into Canada, now making it so that Canadian consumers will be paying more for U.S. goods. So we'll all be paying more for each other's stuff. Does that fix it? Does that solve everything? Does it just equal out? How does that work? I'm obviously kidding. Doesn't equal anything out. Just makes things just worse for everybody, essentially. We were all just in a tariff war. But what could we have expected aside from that? Canada to just say, it's fine. That's fine. We're not going to do anything. Of course not. In fact, some Canadians are prepared to fight.
Thank you all for being here and welcome to Operation Midnight Blizzard. Let me walk you through the plan. We will attack from the north. 15,000 troops. Air support will come from the south, and Captain, you and your armor division will come from the east through the mountain pass. They'll have no escape. What if they resort to guerrilla tactics? Then we siege. We'll starve them out.
No.
Every man, woman, and child till there is nothing left but bones and ash. Sorry. The pieces on this table. The war table? Yes, the war table. What about my war table?
Yeah.
They look like children's toys.
Uh-huh.
Yes? Oh, surely that's inappropriate when discussing warfare. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was critique my war table day.
Yeah.
It's all I could put together.
It is a little distracting now that she mentioned it.
Okay, it's not like they just make war table pieces. I'm sure they do.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do.
They don't. Okay, they're very hard to come by. And besides, I would need custom-made pieces because every war situation.
Credit card.
Actually, I've seen custom war table pieces. In the last war, it was in really nice wood detail. See? Well, I'm sorry, we can't be like the last war you were in. Okay, if you love it so much, why don't you marry it?
Oh.
Look, I had a lot on my plate. Okay, because I had to organize this meeting, which meant working around all your schedules. That was gymnastics in itself. I set up the table, pinched my finger doing so. I drew the map, came up with the war plan. I mean, I think a little thing.
It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's true.
I mean, I don't think the mountain pass is a good idea. Agreed. Oh, same. Wow. Okay, I guess everyone's got an opinion. Everyone's got a critique. I didn't realize this was a focus group, but yeah, okay. Yeah, if everyone's got something to say, let's hear it. Actually, yeah. What's up? Never mind. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Bring it on forward. Let's hear it. You seem a little bit worked up. No.
It's true.
I'm chill. I'm really chill. I'm excited to hear what you have to say. I guess I don't really know why we're doing this war in the first place. Sorry. I just. Okay. A fair point. So, we are going to war because they said something really bad about us. That's it? I mean, it was really bad. I don't know if that's a good enough reason to slaughter the whole population. I mean, is it ever going to be a good enough reason? You know? Yeah, but if you had told me that we were going in because maybe they had oil or something, I would say yes. But, you know, I think because they just call you a bad name is not... It's kind of like... Just get over it. Exactly. I mean, I get called names. It's one of those things in life where you just have to develop a thick skin. You know, we can't be going to war every time someone call you poopy pants. I didn't poop my pants, and it was. They said it about us. That surprises me because of the one time you pooped your pants. That was one time, and I told you I had bad fish. Actually, what's crazy about that is it's not about the name. It's because they have oil. No.
You can't do that now.
The same.
No.
We cannot change the reason because we will all know it was about the name.
Exactly.
Do you know what? I think we put a pin in this, and maybe we circle back. Wait, but if we do that, then we're never going to come back to. It's one of those things. It's just going to fall off of everybody's to-do list. I know it's not good to rush into these things. Something we want to prioritize. Well, you know what? I would like to get our next meeting in the books now, just to make sure. How about spring?
Just to be safe.
Spring. All of spring. Yeah, that time is not good for me. I am in another war. Okay, well then stop playing with the war table. Okay, you know.
Okay, I just figured we would try and have a little fun here. Sunday fun day after all. Julie Nolte, a Canadian, showing us some of her battle plans in the wake of these tariffs. Will any of us be safe? I do not know. I do not know, chat. Perhaps we will have to make that space commune after all. Let's go here to the Premier of British Columbia, who had a message for Canadians.
We're looking at all of the purchasing that we're doing. Just the liquor purchasing that we do here in British Columbia is $3.5 billion.
Whoa.
We are, depending on how you do the math, in the top 5 purchasers of alcohol products in the world through our liquor distribution branch. And so whether it's liquor or whether it's materials for our hospitals or our schools or public service, all of those will be under the lens of these tariffs, and we'll be buying from other jurisdictions and Canadian products first in preference to American products. And for major defense expenditures, which I know is a priority for the Americans, for the president, he wants to see Canada putting additional money into defense. Well, we're all happy to do that work together. But these tariffs will force Canada into procuring from other countries. Even despite the fact that we're the least affected, it will be profoundly damaging for BC families and businesses. And one of the realities that will come from this, I'm sure, for business owners, for certainly for our government, is the recognition that even when the tariffs are taken off, the relationship will not go back to the way it was before. We will not put ourselves in this position again.
Yep. Yep. And that's the sort of messaging, when I hear it, it makes me think, oh wow, it only took Donald Trump 2 weeks to isolate, alienate all of our allies, basically, destroy the U.S. economy, essentially. I mean, all of this stuff, it's taken such a short period of time. But there you go, the Prime Minister, British Columbia, coming out and urging Canadians to boycott U.S. alcohol and buy Canadian. And perhaps this short sketch will help us, those who are Canadians among us, in understanding.
What the hell are you doing? What? That's Heinz ketchup. So? It's American. Buy French's. It's Canadian. We're in a trade war, you traitor. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Mrs. Butterworth? You were gonna buy American maple syrup? Oh. Okay, that costs way more. So does freedom. What the hell is that? My Timmy's. What? Timmy's is Canadian. Not anymore. It's Brazilian now. Buy second cup. Oof. Maybe we just don't buy coffee for a while. That's fair. Okay, what restaurant chains are safe? Boston Pizza, New York Fries. Basically, if there's an American city in the name, it's probably Canadian. Cheetos? No.
Is that true?
Hawkins. I like my cheesies soft. War is no time for soft cheesies. Not my Charmin. Look, I need that. I'm sensitive. This is like wiping your arse with the Charter of Rights. Try Royale. If it sounds English or French, it's probably Canadian. What else is on your list? Chips. Hickory sticks. Orange juice. Clamato juice.
Ugh.
El Paso taco kit. Kraft dinner. Frosted flakes. Kraft dinner. And Kraft dinner.
That's fair.
2 boxes of Kraft dinner.
Uh-huh.
Kraft was owned by Heinz. Yeah, but KD is made in Canada. Ketchup bad, cheesy does good. What do you drink? Jack Daniels. Crown Royal. Right, because if it sounds English or French, it's probably Canadian. Right. Welcome to the fight, soldier.
There you go, folks. Sunday Funday. We gotta have some fun around here. But that is also sound advice for any Canadians potentially looking to avoid buying American products. Now, let's go back to the United States and see how shoppers there are reacting to this in a little town called Puxatawney, Pennsylvania.
I think, yeah, initially it might not work out so well, but if we get our energy secured, if we get our energy down.
This woman seems entirely confused by this conversation the whole time, and I think it's because her boyfriend is all. I think it's just, two idiots found each other somewhere, but this guy doesn't seem to understand how things work at all. We got to secure the energy. Yeah.
I think it'll be all right.
It will be all right. Yeah. It'll be totally fine.
Initially, right now,
it might be a little bit more expensive.
The tariffs on them are basically so that they can help us out with some of the fentanyl and
it's gonna. Oh yeah, the tariff. This guy is such an idiot. The tariffs, they're gonna help us with the fentanyl and I don't know how, but I heard it from somebody.
I don't think the tariffs will be too bad.
Let's give it a go.
Yeah.
And we'll
why
see.
not?
I mean,
Yeah,
we
but
still have
yeah.
4 years to
Yeah.
give it a shot.
Exactly.
And what? In the next 4 years, they say no, that's garbage. Then get.
Oh yeah, exactly. We can just 4 years, no problem. It'll be fine. Come on, why is everybody complaining? We can just, we can handle it for 4 years.
I don't have, much of an economic background, so I can't really speak intelligently about it, but I know that we have a lot of trade with the countries named, especially China, and obviously Mexico and Canada are neighbors, so I have to imagine there's a decent amount of trade there.
There is, it's true.
Tariffs will, inevitably be passed on to the consumer, and I don't think that's what anyone voted for necessarily.
Nope. They voted for lower egg prices. It seems like the Donald Trump voters have already forgotten that was a thing they were supposedly promised. But now, actually, they're fine. They're fine pulling themselves up by their bootstraps for the next 4 years. Donald Trump makes things more expensive. It's just because of fentanyl. Gotta end the fentanyl. Of course. Now, of course, you know, Punxsutawney people, I don't know them too well. But they also happen to try and determine the timing of seasons by way of a... What is it, a muskrat? Or a... What is it? Like a groundhog, right? Not the most scientific critical thinking went into that process. I mean, who... Oh no, why is it so low? I'm sorry. When did I turn it down? Oh, right, I was back here. I was translating. It was at Trudeau. Oh, I screwed you all. Oh, I'm so sorry. That's my bad. But yeah, you know, I would say it's not the... Doesn't take a genius to figure out that's not the best way to figure out if spring is coming. So, you know, I would say approximately the same amount of critical thinking went into the answers from those two in the supermarket that went into deciding on how we determine when spring comes in Pennsylvania. It was low but audible. Yeah, I've been trying to make it better lately, but I'm still not perfect. When it switches back, I gotta remember every time that when the subtitles end, I gotta turn the volume right back up. Something I've been trying to get better and better at, so that we have the peak sound around here. Alright, now speaking of those tariffs, let's see what Donald Trump had to say when getting off of the plane here earlier today, about 5 hours ago, I think. Oops, I clicked the wrong button. That is... No, God damn it.
I made a huge, tiny mistake.
Here we go. Forbes breaking news. 4 hours ago.
Our federal government.
Mr. President.
We saw some retaliatory tariffs from Canada. Say it. We saw some retaliatory tariffs from Canada. There was a rider in the order. Are you planning to increase the tariffs against Canada? Well, it could happen. If they do anything, we will. Canada's been very abusive of the United States for many years.
So abusive.
They don't allow our banks. Did you know that? Canada does not allow banks to go.
How dare they?
To go in. If you think about it, that's pretty amazing. If we have a U.S. bank, they don't allow them.
It's not like the U.S. is filled with Canadian and Chinese and Mexican banks all over the place.
Go in. Canada's been very tough on oil, on energy. They don't allow
tough
our
on oil.
products in, essentially.
What is he? He's just looking at the... Oh my god. Oh my god. Trying to unpack this shit is so hilarious. It is such a... But it's also just this insane task, right? Donald Trump is still talking about trade imbalances, right? The country of Canada, just generally speaking, sells us more oil than we sell them. Why? Well, it's because we have all the refineries. So they're selling them to the refinery. They're selling all this oil to the refineries, which U.S. refiners are benefiting from, right? They're buying cheap Canadian oil, and then they're refining it into other oil products, right? Like petrol, right? Like you know, petroleum, you know, gasoline, right? Stuff like that. And that's why there's an imbalance. It's not because they're not buying any products from us. They're in fact turning around and buying that gasoline that's being refined here in the United States, just not as much as maybe they're selling to us. It doesn't mean that they're somehow like robbing us. We would actually lose money if they stopped selling. Not that I care about it, especially in this particular situation. But my point is that if they stop, which seems like it's going to, potentially, depending on what happens here, but I'm starting to think they might. There's been talk about building refineries in Canada to avoid dealing with this sort of thing, that the United States, specifically Donald Trump, wants to play this game with Canada. You know, the refiners will lose so much money because they won't have cheap Canadian tar sands oil and other stuff like that to refine with.
Very tough on oil, on energy. They don't allow our farm products in, essentially. They don't allow a lot of things in, and we allow everything to come in. It's been a one-way street. We subsidize Canada by the tune of about $200 billion a year. And for what? What do we get out of it? We don't get anything out of it. I love the people of Canada. I disagree with the leadership of Canada.
Trade imbalances are not subsidies. It's just a fact. Subsidies would be just us giving Canada money for just whatever aid purposes, I guess. Like, to boost their industry, we would just give them money and get nothing in return. It doesn't happen. It's not a thing.
And something's going to happen there. But if they want to play the game, I don't mind. We can play the game all they want. Mexico, we've had very good...
There you go. Donald Trump. If Canada wants to play the game, we'll play the game. You play the game. All right, let's actually watch some more of this because there's a bunch of shit in here. Trying to remember, I gotta skip ahead to where he starts talking.
Thank you very much. So, we had a very busy weekend. We got the 6 hostages out of Venezuela, as you probably know, and they're very safe right now. They're home with their families, and we appreciate the hard work of a lot of people, including Rick Grinnell. We appreciate the cooperation from Venezuela, and we have some very happy people right now. Nobody thought that was going to happen. So they are home, they're safe, and they're with their families. That was a big one. Secretary of State Rubio is in Panama right now, and we're talking about the Panama Canal. What they've done is terrible. They violated the agreement.
China!
They're not allowed to violate the agreement. China's running the Panama Canal.
China.
It was not given to China. That was given to Panama foolishly. But they violated the agreement, and we're going to take it.
They violated the agreement. My God. They didn't violate the agreement, actually. Everything is the same as it was once. Always has been. Run by Panama ever since, whatever, the 90s, when they took control of it by way of the U.S., whatever that one was. But, yeah, I mean, this is more crazy talk.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. As you know, we had a very busy weekend. We're dealing with Israel.
So busy.
We're dealing with Ukraine and Russia. We have meetings and talks scheduled with various parties, including Ukraine and Russia. And I think those discussions are actually going pretty well. The discussions on the Middle East with Israel and various and sundry other countries are progressive.
Wow, dude. Various other in sundry countries. Why does he only bring out the vocabulary for the worst purposes?
Bibi Netanyahu is coming on Tuesday, and I think we have some very big meetings scheduled.
President, do you feel that Elon Musk is delivering on his promises to you? Do you feel he's doing a good job right now with
I do. I think Elon's doing a good job. He's a big cost cutter. Sometimes we won't agree with it and will not go where he wants to go, but I think he's doing it.
In sundry isn't a word. I think he meant a sundry. I could be wrong. But, you know, pronunciation. Who cares?
Job. He's a smart guy, very smart, and he's very much into cutting the budget of our federal government.
Mr. President.
Also retaliatory tariffs from Canada.
Say it.
You've also retaliatory
Is it not a
tariffs
word?
in Canada. There was a rider in the
Oh, God. Donald Trump just making up words. By the way, if you didn't hear over the weekend, Donald Trump also said that he's going to be tariffing the EU and the UK. So that should be fascinating to see how that all goes. Basically, everything else, if you take away China, Mexico, and Canada, everything else we get is from there. I guess you could throw like Vietnam and Indonesia in there too or something like that. But I guess the point is most of our goods are going to be tariffed now. So get ready for that. Oh, we gotta take a break. Oh, almost went way over. Almost started another video. That's crazy.
That's too much, man.
Well, I hope everybody is enjoying the show so far. If you haven't already, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe, of course. Maybe even hit that little bell icon too, so you know when the latest galactic content is coming out. How will you know when these live streams are happening without being subscribed or even chatting? Any of those things, you wouldn't know. But while you're doing those things, which only take a few seconds and a couple of clicks of the fingers, you could also use your fingers to donate to the Galactic News Network. Help us keep doing the things that we do around here in the late night, early morning hours. So many great ways to do that, of course. YouTube, Super Chat, Super Stickers, memberships. Twitch, you got those subscriptions and bits and all that stuff, so you can get emotes and ad-free viewing, Cash App and PayPal. If you just want to give us money straight from your bank account to us, just so you know that we are funded enough to keep doing what we do. What else? Of course, Patreon. You can become a patron on Patreon by just clicking the link that's probably in chat or on my bio on YouTube and Twitch. Just a few US dollars and you can get the most available space benefits. Some say in the entire Milky Way galaxy. Alright chat, enjoy this short space intermission. Grab yourselves a drink, maybe a snack, and I will be right back. am back. Let me get everything set as it needs to be. Okay. Well, chat, you know what time it is. Now that you can hear my voice, it's time for you to get back to your seats. Otherwise, you're going to miss some of that galactic content. And it's, of course, Sunday Funday when you get the most valuetainment for your galactic and or Earth dollars, so you wouldn't want to do that. Now, start off the second half in LA, where, of course, there's been those massive wildfires in recent past and the even more recent cleanup efforts that have been going on. But before we do that, let's see some of the other stuff that's been going on in LA recently. Here's NBC LA from 4 hours ago. Demonstrations on the streets.
But I hope you know, if you are watching this and you are scared, we are all here to fight for you.
The authoritarian powers that be will not rise.
Illegal. Right now at 5, thousands of people pouring onto the 101 freeway in downtown LA, protesting deportations across the country. We're live on the classes with police, the impact of traffic, and the message from the protesters.
NBC4 News at 5 starts with breaking news.
Hello, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Kathy Barra.
And I'm John Kennedy's Klimak. Protesters started at LA City Hall this morning, eventually made their way to the 101, completely shutting down traffic in both directions.
Right now, let's get out to NBC4's Tracy Leong. She has an update for us. Tracy.
Yeah, John and Kathy, we are near Olvera Street across from the plaza where many people tell me the demonstration started early this morning. They came out here after seeing a post on social media urging them to protest deportations. Let's get straight to that video that shows these massive crowds. Tens of thousands of people came out here to downtown LA, starting on surface streets before moving onto the 101. As some people entered the freeway, crowds cheered them on from the overpasses and the side streets. LAPD called this a non-permitted demonstration that has remained peaceful. It moved to City Hall through the surface streets before heading onto the 101, blocking both the south and northbound lanes. This protest has continued to grow by the hour since we've been here. Many people carrying signs speaking out against President Trump's immigration policies and massive deportation effort.
Well, there we go. We got protesters in the streets in LA blocking the 101 and the 5, causing traffic to shut down over these deportation efforts of Donald Trump. Before we get to more of these, because I got another video on this and some other stuff that's been going on in LA. Before we do that, I did notice people talking about the stock market, and yes, the Dow is down big right now. I think it's around 2%. Looking at the evening futures here, yeah, Dow's down 1.5%. The S&P is down 2%. The Nasdaq is down 2.5%, and it's still only 1 in the morning. So those futures markets have not been open for long. I think they open when Japan's markets opens, which were down 3% at the low. Australia was down almost 2%. And the other countries in Asia that I follow here, like the Hang Seng in China or the Sensex in India, also down in negative territory. It would seem Donald Trump's tariffs here may be affecting markets. That would be my guess for at least what the reasoning might be behind that sell-off. Now, let's go over here to KTLA 5 from just a few hours ago on this same protest.
Thousands of protesters rallied in downtown LA today against President Trump's crackdown on illegal immigration and his aggressive deportation policies.
Yeah, those protesters taking over the 101 freeway at certain points. Jennifer McGraw live for us in downtown LA. She's got the latest. Jen?
Rick and Karine, finally we're hearing the police helicopters flying around saying officially this is an unlawful assembly. Everybody must leave this area. We've seen hundreds and thousands of people in this downtown Los Angeles area. It has been completely gridlocked. Just moments ago behind me there were dozens of officers. They all got in their squad cars and they went flying down the street. They definitely mean business for these people out here who have a strong message. Hundreds seen taking over the freeway and marching in the streets of downtown LA, protesting President Donald Trump's policies regarding immigration and deportations.
Us as Latinas, Latinos, us as Hispanics, it's scary for everybody. We don't know. We don't know the future.
Since his first day back in office, Trump has signed a flurry of executive orders, giving the military a greater presence at the U.S.-Mexico border and the reduction of restrictions previously levied against immigration and customs enforcement.
Yep. So people standing up for their rights, for their neighbors, to stop these horrifying deportations led by the Trump administration, whether or not they will, be heard by Donald Trump and his allies. I'm sure we could speculate. I'm not very optimistic on it. I would like it to be heard. Hopefully some pressure can be exerted on them. But this is, if anything, I think some of them are relishing in this right now. Now, about going back to economics stuff really quickly, market stuff, I see people still talking a little bit about it in chat. I did also notice just now the crypto market is absolutely imploding right now. 20%. 20% down almost across the board in the market right now, in the crypto market. Looking on a coin market cap here. Wow, Ethereum down 20% in the last 24 hours. Bitcoin down $15,000 from its high of earlier this month of whatever, 107,000, now down to 92, or a little higher than that, but basically hit 92. Wow. Considering how much money is in this stuff, there was trillions of dollars. Losing 20% of value across the board is wow. That may be where some of the volatility is either coming from or being exported to right now. Wow, around all these tariffs and other things that are going on. Now, since it's Sunday Funday, I figured we'd do this amidst it all. Of course, in LA, we talked about it. The Grammys are happening, and they are happening as we speak, or were earlier this evening. Here's the red carpet. All the stars coming out. Wow. What is that outfit? Oh my god. Jaden Smith wearing a... appears to be a dollhouse, I guess, as a hat. Although it's hard to call a hat, because it covers part of the face, too. I'm loving this look, but what is this, Jaden? What is happening here? This is like teacup Vogue, I would say, if I had to name it. Loving that suit. It's like a 6-piece suit. It's even worse from further back. God damn it, Jaden. How old are you now? It's time to not. What is this? What else is happening in LA? I wonder. Oh, right. This.
Today we're sort of digging through
bonnet. Is it a bonnet? I guess we could call it
a lot of dishes and
I don't know if does it meet the criteria necessary.
Essentially all that we can, sort of remember some things.
Sorry,
Now,
I gotta go back.
They gave us. Today we're sort of digging through, trying to find some things. We found some pottery, a lot of dishes and stuff, but we're really just trying to find essentially all that we can, sort of remember some things. Finally now they gave us sort of a pass, so all residents can come in and look at their houses and sort of dig through the rubble if they want to. It was a long wait, but it wasn't really too stressful to sort of wait till it was all clear. It's nice. It's hard to sort of look at this, but it's nice to find those little things that at one point didn't mean so much. Plates are plates, but now they're a memory to sort of look back on and see the house and where we were for my whole life. Special. It's a sort of a sublime feeling, right? It's such a scary thing to see all this, but it's really sort of beautiful in a way.
Who was that? Green New Deal? Green New Deal was the third on Twitch. Way to get it on the podium still. 2.5 hours in. No, our Twitch viewership is very low. I'm afraid. I have not been putting enough effort into trying to market myself on Twitch. I focus almost entirely on YouTube. I should try to diversify more. I'm just not good at doing it right now because I've been so focused on other things. It's my bad. I should be better at the business stuff. What was I doing? Oh yes, let's go back. Yeah, that's right. I'm doing a comparative analysis between the Grammys and the fires. Taylor Swift, of course, at the Grammys. Dressed in all red. I know Taylor is something of a polarizing individual for some. And for that, we're going to move on. I don't want to upset anyone. So just figure we get a little Taylor in there. She was there. We're not going to pretend like she wasn't there, okay? It's the Grammys. It's sort of her thing. Let's now go back to KTLA5.
Nearly a month after a firestorm ripped through the Pacific Palisades, the idyllic coastal community is reopening to the public for the first time. But not everyone is happy about it. Many residents are worried about crime and looting as many homes that survived the fire are still empty.
Tonight, police have stepped up patrols to make sure the area is safe. KTLA's Rick Chambers joins us live from Pacific Palisades with more on the reopening. Rick?
Yeah, Cher, all of those fears are understandable.
I gotta say, Pacific Palisades, in terms of things, there's a strong concentration of Karens in the Pacific Palisades. It's not exclusively Karens, but there's quite a few, right? There's some good people, undoubtedly, in the Pacific Palisades. Can't forget that, but,
Reopening. Rick?
Yeah, Cher, all of those fears are understandable, but the city says it has plans to deal with it, so the reopening will be Sunday.
At 8 a.m., the checkpoints on PCH will be removed, and LAPD will surge a specific presence into the Palisades community.
After 24 days of lockdowns and curfew, the Palisades is reopening to everyone.
Along with your insurance adjusters, contractors,
Swiftie
trucks,
apologist,
moving trucks, all that are a part of the massive.
See, I knew it was going to be attacked for even showing Swiftie saying anything about it. I should have just, But here at the Galactic News Network, we do not shy away from things. I will not apologize for for this libel that you're casting in my direction, these aspersions. I will not back down.
Effort to rebuild.
That means a ramping up of LAPD manpower to saturate the neighborhoods and assure residents.
So you're going to have 6 supervisors and 66 officers
in the Palisades every 24 hours. On top of that, you're going to have our Metropolitan Division, and we're going to be deploying 2 squads, up to 25 officers.
And with police headquartered just off PCH, they hope that this will be a deterrent to burglars and looters and squatters.
There will be an immediate response to...
Yeah, you can't have squatters showing up and living in these multi-million-dollar mansions on the hill. That would be too much.
That's too much, man!
These dang homeless is just ruining it. Yeah.
Come on!
By the way, this one lady, she goes full Karen during this discussion, I recall. She's like yelling.
Thing that
like,
keeps
we
up
cannot.
as suspicious activity.
National Guard checkpoints, however, will be reduced to 17 as they prepare to pull out at the end of next week. And prosecutors say
It's like-
minimum penalties...
It's fully militarized right now. They have the goddamn National Guard here and barbed wire across the streets, razor wire. My God.
prepare to pull out at the end of next week. And prosecutors say minimum penalties have been waived, so criminals will face some serious time.
And the sentences they're looking at start at 3 years in prison. And for the 3 strikers that we've arrested, they're up to life in prison for a maximum sentence. These are serious sentences that criminals...
Maximum life sentence for people in just showing up to a neighborhood they're not supposed to be in. Okay. That's weird. That might be too much.
That's too much, man!
...believe are taking notice of.
To me, this still feels premature.
Not everyone is keen, though, to reopening to anyone without a legitimate reason to be there.
The last thing we need are looky-loos and curiosity seekers in the way, clogging up the roads, taking up parking, or putting themselves or other people at risk.
And protesters.
Okay. As you can see, that woman was very upset about them opening up the neighborhoods because of looky-loos, I guess. Clogging the roads? I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Clogging them? How many people is she expecting to show up exactly? Wild. Let's go back to the Grammys. Who was there? I wonder. Chapel Roan. Okay. Okay. Who's that? Is that Sabrina Carpenter? Oh, and Billie Eilish I saw back there. Oh shit, what's this lady's name? Whoa, what a suit. Well, there you go. It's Sunday Funday. I'm bringing the valuetainment, okay? We're doing all of it. We can't forget what has been going on in this area. Can't forget that blocks away from this event was burned homes. People who have lost everything. And that LA officials are still preparing to do everything they can to
Casey has been talking all about this.
prevent more damage to the area, like from rains that have been hitting now in January, well, now February, I guess. So.
Is in the forecast this week, heightening the risk of potential mud flows in the recent burn areas.
Yeah, LA County Supervisor Lindsay Horvath just wrapping up a press conference on how the county is preparing ahead of all the rain headed our way. This morning, our Aaron Myers joins us live from Malibu with those details. Aaron, good morning again.
Good morning to you both. That news conference just wrapped up, and Supervisor Lindsay Horvath talked about how their mission right now with this upcoming rain is to keep residents, to keep people safe, also to protect properties. And you can see here behind me, they do have K-rails up on the roadway. We are at Cloud Drive near Sandy Cape Drive, and you can see here one of the homes that was lost during the Palisades fire. Now, officials did talk about the preparations being made for this rain. And we did see some rain last week. There were some issues, though there wasn't any serious damage, but now there are concerns as we head into the week. Here in Malibu, heavy equipment is being used to prepare burn areas and protect the flood control district. Public Works crews will be moving 400 cubic yards of mud and debris from the Cloudcroft Basin. Large K-rails are being put into place to stop debris from reaching homes and out of the storm drain system, which are being cleared in order to protect the ocean from toxic runoff. The city of Los Angeles is also getting ready. We spoke with Councilmember Tracy Park this morning about what the city has been doing. She says there have been watershed hazard mitigation workers on the ground. Cal OES has been working with the county and the city to identify areas of risk of mud and debris flow, and they are shoring those areas up. They have installed thousands of feet of K-rail and sandbags. Councilmember Park says even with all the preparations, problems may be inevitable.
There you go, KTLA 5 with the story on what officials are trying to do ahead of more rains coming to the area in LA. Alright, last Grammys story. I couldn't help myself. Gotta go here. Gotta go here.
That's hot. It's just been, that's the silver lining in all of this. It's just been like something out of a horror film. It just like was unreal that what was happening, and just to see how strong and resilient this town is as well, and just to see everyone lifting each other up, everyone supporting each other, and I think that that really shows just how special this place is. That's hot.
It is hot. You're right. You're right, Paris.
Well, Madison, we didn't find any.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. I've got a freaking sound shot of Paris on the board. When else am I gonna use it? Gotta see what Paris had to say at the Grammys. Alright, now enough talk of fires and musical award ceremonies. Let's talk about snow. It is winter, of course.
Winter is coming.
Let's go here to King 5 Seattle. Talk about the winter wonderland that has ensconced South Bellingham and parts of western Washington.
Well, Madison, we didn't find any snow in downtown Bellingham earlier today, but just a couple miles south at this gas station near Lake Sammamish, well, you'll find tons of snow as this community embraces this winter blast.
I'm really excited. I'm loving it though, because it's nice. It's like winter wonderland.
A winter wonderland sweeping through South Bellingham during the first weekend of February, marking the first time this year snowfall has hit Whatcom County.
A lot of snow happens around here.
Madeline Delaney has lived in Bellingham throughout her life.
Hi, welcome in.
And is the cashier of this 76 station near Lake Sammamish.
Did you get snowed in at all?
Taking in the views around her.
And you see it on the trees, you see the houses, you see sprinkle, sprinkle, and as you're driving, it gets more and more. And then right around here at the gas station, it's all in the parking lot. The only place it's not covered is underneath the gas pumps.
Starting from 7 p.m. Sunday night to 10 a.m. Wednesday, a cold weather advisory will be in effect in Whatcom County. According to the National Weather Service, very cold wind chills as low as 5 to 15 degrees are expected. Conditions Delaney believes is leading to a slow day at work.
Yeah, people probably staying inside away from the snow rather than coming for a slushy.
Well, here in Issaquah, the snow is still falling and has been falling for much of the day. City officials tell me they have 9 plows operating and they have crews on an adjusted schedule so they can get to as many roads as possible. People here today say they're hoping for dry and clear roads tomorrow, but families were just excited to see the snow today. A peaceful winter morning quickly turned to playtime for the Koryakin family.
They didn't even want to have breakfast.
That's huge.
Let's go out. Let's go out.
The thing is
As the twins
huge.
quickly took advantage of the fresh snow at Central Park. That is too heavy. In their Issaquah Highlands neighborhood.
I don't know.
Kid. I don't know how you're gonna lift one onto the other.
They're rolling snowballs and they're huge.
We tried to make a big snowman. Archie and his brother Sava have lots of energy. I want to make a snowman like that tree. And big goals that might need some assistance.
How do you mean?
My dad and mom help me.
Last year and the year before, we had to go to Snoqualmie Pass to find some snow. So this is the first time we have this snow in such amount like here in this area.
Their family has lived in Washington for 2 years, and although they love the snow, they hope the roads can stay safe and clear for the work week and that people take their time driving.
I wish there were no snow on the road because I need to drive. And yeah, it might be icy and dangerous, but for kids, they would prefer to have even more snow. I know that.
I'm so happy to snow again. Well,
There you go. Kids enjoying the snow, something we may see less and less of as our world changes. So the climate becomes unstable. Places that expect snow may not see it as much as they may have in the past. Now, there's one phenomenon that apparently appears in the Pacific Northwest that I found to be fascinating. Never heard of this. But it's quite weird.
Yeah, Greg, look at this. It's called hair ice. And honestly, it really hasn't been researched that heavily, but what we do know about it is fascinating.
Maria Metler walks into her office.
Hi, little one.
A place where she can name most critters. Under this canopy.
Little Pacific wren.
The Fisher Pond Preserve on Vashon Island, a place she's hoping to show off Mother Nature's finest.
And maybe with that pond, the temperature is colder down there.
She's looking for hair ice, something she sees maybe once a winter.
So this is a picture of some that I found last year.
The name perfectly describes the way it looks.
It's extremely beautiful. It looks just like hair.
But its formation is much more complicated. Maria says hair ice forms mostly between 45 to 55 degrees north latitude, which is from Portland into British Columbia, and after at least 2 to 3 days of sub-freezing temperatures, but there can't be snow. It forms on hardwoods like oak, maple, ash, or alder, but only where the inner wood is exposed. And there has to be fungus present. These conditions...
Super weird, but apparently in this specific latitude, with a certain length of time with sub-freezing temperatures but no snow, on specific kinds of hardwoods, where the inner wood is exposed and fungus is present, this kind of really pretty looking ice just doesn't always form, but can form. And look at it, it's just so cool looking. Looks like cotton.
Ice he discovered here on Vashon this month. And in Redmond, Lori O'Neill took these photos near her home through various cold spells. Maria says the excitement around hair ice helps encourage people to be curious about the world around us.
It's just a reminder that there's a lot of things to be discovered and a lot of things to create wonder around.
All right, there we go. We're going to leave the north. West, go a little bit south here, from there to Utah, where it's a different ice situation for us to look at. Something to perhaps at least